when you look at Brazil, what do you see as like the biggest potential we have and the role we can play as a country in that industry? Uh, because of course we have our own perspective on this, but it would
Yeah.
be interesting to hear how you have seen this through the years.
Yeah, you know, I could make a mass. Everything I'm going to say is based on a very small data set of people that
Well,
I've been fortunate enough to work with, including yourself, and there's been others. But before working with any of you, I had really no idea. I hadn't any exposure to working with anyone from Brazil or Portugal, who spoke Portuguese, or Japan, or even like people from London or France or Spain, etc. And they're just really smart people everywhere, right? And I think, going back to a nationalistic thing or closed borders or without the internet, like your world is this. And then you understand the world is like, I can't do it on the camera, but much bigger. And there's there's basically you everywhere. So you're replicated in all these different countries, just speak a different language and you grew up in a different place, but make no doubt, you are replicated in other places. And so that's what I've seen is just really smart people who are everywhere and might not have the opportunities to have the visibility to say, hey, look at me over here. I'm willing to go and help you. But how do I get noticed? And I think it comes down to education and the school systems and the government doing a lot to try to, one, build a base of education. And from what I know in the university systems there, they're very good and they teach the technology and coding and things like that. And I know you and others like did great on the engineering tests. And then after you started working, just crushed code in a very intelligent way. So that has been my experience. And in every country now, as we continue to grow, again, it used to be maybe the U.S. or maybe some companies in Europe and stuff that were the big companies. But I hadn't really heard of Globo until I started working. They're huge.
yeah.
Like there are multiple huge media, technology, pharmaceutical companies everywhere, and they're solving problems for people locally and then have a chance to expand. I think if you're in Brazil, you should look for those companies that are headquartered there because I think if you are close to headquarters still, you can pick up a lot, right? The buzz, what's going on, it's in your own language, and it reduces a lot of barriers to learning in the beginning. As you're more in your career, like mid career, and those things like are more natural to you, I think you can start venture out and say, how do I work for a company where my native language is not their native language and you have to learn it? Well, that's difficult. But if you have the base of business and tech, you can overcome that. But if it was the very beginning and you're just learning how to work at a company, how to work with people, you don't know the language, you're going to get frustrated. They might get frustrated with you. You won't feel like you're doing anything right. So I think it's a little too much change. That's just my opinion. And that might be me. But I think that you should look for companies in your own country, in your own town, city, or at least where you speak the language. So communicate. Because when you start working, it's communication between people that's really the most important thing. And you will learn, the company will teach you what you need to learn. You have to understand it, and then you need to follow it. And then if something's not right, you need to communicate it. And even when you speak the same language, communication's hard, right? Ask my wife. Like we communicate past each other all the time. We speak the same language, allegedly. So I do think that give yourself a couple years, but I only think it takes a couple years. If you're focused and you learn something, then you should start branching out. And if you work for a multinational company, that's great because now you can try to take a trip to go visit headquarters. And you should raise your hands. Raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to go out and visit, or I'd like to go work on this project with other people. So find ways to get yourself into it. And then maybe you find a way to come and work in a different country or the United States, or you work in Europe somewhere. And it might not be the exact job that you want, but again, it's a stepping stone. So you do that. And once you get that going, now you take 10 years of your other experience and you elevate both of those things. So, I've been impressed. I do know probably like even in the United States, like it's hard to get a good education or it's hard to focus on the education when you're worrying about where is food going to come from. And so you're trying to work another job or something like that. And that's very tough. So if those problems exist, I really hope that the local communities and societies and really the government should help. But the government as elected by the people to do that job, not to go do other things that just get the votes. Like I think we need to push for those things.